I'm a much mental, like my mental health is much better. My attitude towards cons is much better. And like I've learned from you, like adjusting your expectations helps
Yes.
a ton.
Yes.
It's been great, like not taking commissions at shows because it's really allowing me to talk about Inkpulp instruction with people
Yeah.
and get in depth with it. And I gave out all of my promotional material. I think by 3:00 I was out, and I bought enough for what it was usually a whole weekend's worth.
Yeah.
So I think the word is getting out there. And not to say I don't take commissions. I've just priced them so high that they're worth my time if I take them at that price. But
Good.
that way
That's really smart.
I'm not just going to cons to make money, although I do need to do that. I'm doing it anyway. It's like things are just working out.
Good. Good. I'm proud of you, buddy. Hey, listen to this other microphone. Listen to this one.
Yeah, I hear that.
Yeah, this is the boom microphone that's right above my head. So I don't necessarily have to have this, but it doesn't have the big bottom of this one.
That one is really, that's a sexy microphone right there.
Yeah. Need all the help that I can get. So what's going on, man? You came back from the show. It felt good to you.
Yeah, it was
I saw that you were sitting next to our very good friend, Mark Irwin. I missed that guy. I was kind of just joking around with him. I saw a photo that our art dealer from Essential Sequential took a photo of it, and I saw you at the far end with Mark on the right-hand side of you. And I thought,
you know what, I'll troll these guys. Warning about me.
I did. I said, don't trust that guy. That guy's like a disease monkey.
Disease monkey. All right, that's good.
I said you were the what do you call it? The patient zero of getting him sick.
Of getting who sick?
Of getting everybody sick. It all kind of radiates out from you. I'm just kidding.
Well, I was like, who got sick? What are you talking about?
I'm giving you a hard time.
Yeah, so it was me, Mark, Klaus was there, Jason, and Mo. So it was the first night's dinner was, and Jeff DeCal was there too.
Oh, right on.
Yeah, so it was fun. But the first night's dinner was just me, Mark, Klaus, Jason, and Mo, and that was really nice.
Yeah,
it wasn't a big crowd of people. It was really chill.
Was it a big show?
It was a one-day show. So these are the people that owned Boston Comic-Con, sold it. What?
Back in the day, Boston Comic-Con.
Right. So they sold it to, I think it's Fan Expo.
Okay.
And Fan Expo maybe it was Reed. I don't remember. It was one of the two biggies. Okay. But that convention company turned it into a big like celebrity show, as they do.
Sure.
And the original organizers, I think, were like, oh man, I wish we didn't do that because now it's not the con we built. So they waited out their no compete clause.
Sure.
And then they got investors behind them, and they're like, we're going to do one-day show for a few years. Yeah. And the investors and everyone was under the idea that after it was either 3 years, I think it was 3 years, we'll be hopefully turning a profit.
Right.
The show was packed and really well. I can't say if they made a profit or not, but I noticed they've already announced next year's a 2-day show.
Oh, wow.
So that's a good sign.
They're already upgrading. That's
and it felt like a comic book convention. It didn't feel like when I say that, I mean like an old comic book convention. There was no celebrity presence at all. It was all in kind of a large hotel ballroom. It wasn't in a convention center.
I was like, look at this old school shit, man. Tomorrow this thing's going to be turned into like a wedding banquet or
something. Yeah, exactly. But it was awesome. I mean, there was enough like creators there that it was great to see everyone, and it was the attendees were all there to buy shit and talk, and it was a good show.
Oh, good. And like you said, they're going to be there next year for a two-day show this time around.
Yeah, so I very much would like to go back. It was a nice, quick little getaway, and all the talent. They were like, "Look, come have a weekend in Boston on us and do our one-day show." So we got in Friday. Jeff and I planned our trip to leave Sunday night so that Sunday afternoon we could walk down to the water and get a lobster roll and then head to the airport, which we did. It was delicious.
Do you know that's how I effectively landed my wife?
With a lobster roll?
No. Well, our second date was me flying her out to Boston from back in the day from California.
For a con or just for a visit?
So I can literally like sweep her off her feet and took her to Boston. I remember having
Boston.
I think it was because the week previous or 2 weeks previous, we were at a show there. And I was taking photos and being like, well, this is a really nice small town. It may have been only the third time I'd visited, but it was definitely one of the first times I was sort of recognizing the really sort of intimate nature of that city. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And having that my wife had never been, I said, hey, you know what? I'll take you here someday. And lo and behold, after I got back 2 weeks later, we were back there and hanging out.
That's awesome. It was a nice city. I could see how like having a female by your side would make that a really.
Oh my gosh, we went everywhere. Yeah, we were zonked out by the time all was said and done, because everything is, at least from where we were staying, it was pretty walkable.
Yeah, it's very walkable. Yeah, we didn't take an Uber once. We walked everywhere.
Yeah. I love the nature of that. We went from going into a bookstore that happened to have a cafe inside, which we had some of the best corned beef that we've ever had. It was that memorable. And then afterwards, we walked down another neighborhood. And there was an antique shop. And my wife and I walked in there. Well, then my then girlfriend walked in there. We're just checking the place out and went bowling in the evening. And it's really nice.
Nice,
really, really nice city.
It's a nice city.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. So
yeah, dude.
We should all go back next year.
Assuming that the world isn't shut down again.
hey, we're done, right? We're moving forward. We're
not what do you call it? Not Philadelphia.
Oh, dude, that shit is so stupid.
So stupid.
So stupid.
So dumb. It's all being under the guise of like, oh, we've had an uptick. But if you really go look at the numbers that they're reacting to, or in this case, overreacting to, holy crap, man, you're going to lock down your city.
It's an uptick in the spreading of a cold. I mean, everyone has it or is exposed to it right now. Everyone I know that has it, it's like, I have a cold.
Right, for sure. Speaking of, I think I have a cold. Well, I know for sure I have a cold. I don't know if I have it. Yeah. But ever since things have lightened up a bit, we've been going to a little gym for my son for a while now, which is like an hour and a half long sort of activity, just for me to burn off that energy. Kind of like that, yeah. Under with a coach and all that bit. But a couple times, this is my second time, and I think in about 3 weeks that I've gotten cold. And I've gotten a cold. I'm like, this freaking kid. They just
oh, dude, you got 2 kids now. You're done. The next 4 years of your life are antibiotics.
Freaking petri dish of awfulness.
But then you come out of it, you're like Superman with your immunity.
And that's what I mean. I mean, like, I'd rather have it now, but in the meantime, I'm sitting here going like, oh, I've got that, that clogged sinus feeling. You know what I mean? A little bit of.
Yeah, we all have it too.
Yeah.
Me, Steph, and Zoe all have it.
Right on.
But it's just a little cold.
Yeah. All right, so what are we talking about? What are we doing?
You said you wanted to ask me something tonight. Is that the case?
That's not true at all. I was thinking that was going to be the case until I get caught behind the Schedule 8 ball, and I can't think of. I come unprepared with 0% notes.
Okay, well that's fine. Because
Well, here's the thing. Here's what I've seen in as far as your personal growth is concerned, right? Okay. Like what I've seen in the time that we've sort of, as an entire country become sequestered, sort of like put under lockdown. I feel like there's a different chill to you than before.
Yeah.
There was always the person I was hanging out with before. When was the last time that we saw each other? Well, short of your visit. You came to visit me 2 years ago.
Before I visited you, it had probably been months before COVID hit, probably 6 months to a year before COVID hit.
Was it Chicago? Were we in Chicago?
I didn't do Chicago. It must have been. I don't think you were at Heroes that year. Mm-hmm. I don't think, and I didn't do Emerald City. I think it was probably a year before COVID hit.
Holy cow! So it's been some time. right?
Yeah.
Because I know, you came down here with your engineer and set the whole interview up. So I think that was the last time that you and I had seen each other face to face. But at a show,
yeah,
I can't even remember. That's how long ago it was. I can't even remember the last time.
Yeah, I can't either. I can't.
But here's the thing: the when I knew you way back when, I still have enough of a memory to recall this. But you were a guy that was working on your chill, and I could tell. It's like, oh yeah, Shawn's fairly. No, I remember we all went to Vegas together.
Yep.
Anyway, so you were always a guy, but this had been well implemented by the time we saw each other in Vegas, right? But way back when we would do shows, you were always a guy that had a chill about you, but I could always tell it was, and this isn't the right word, but it was under duress.
Mm-hmm. No,
right? There's still that nervousness, that tiny bit of anxiety energy,
Yeah.
But ever since we've been hanging out recently, we've made these. This is what, our third time recording, fourth time recording.
This is our fourth. Yeah.
Like, I feel a change in you, right? So if we're going to say lockdown is 2 years plus a year previous since we've seen each other, not counting Vegas, what do you think you've done with yourself in that time that has not just has made it obvious, right, but sustainable?
I've done a lot of work. I probably started doing the work probably a year, maybe at most 2 before COVID. I started listening to some self-help books.
Okay.
And I started a new way of thinking. I started accepting ideas that I hadn't before. The big shift was embracing the idea of faith, and I don't mean religion.
Sure.
And I'll just call it the universe or whatever.
Yeah.
But embracing
something more spiritual.
Yeah. So I went from being a very, I guess, a cold-minded, logic-driven, science-following, atheist-minded person. And what I mean by that is I had a very cold outlook on everything. Like, I didn't believe that thinking positively really made a difference. I didn't believe that your thoughts had power to them. I didn't. I looked at everything. I think maybe it was a naive or a more childish way to look at things. But if something wasn't right, I had a lot of trouble accepting that. Like, if something wasn't fair, I shouldn't say right. If something wasn't fair, I had a lot of trouble accepting that, because it was. I think that definitely comes from my dad. Just this mentality of, like, you be good, you do good, you work hard, and everything will be good. And those who are shitty won't be good.
Sure.
So, it was kind of like a big wake up call to realize, like, first of all, that has nothing to do with me. Whatever's going on with someone else has nothing to do with me at all.
Yeah, I'm a guy that a good buddy of mine named Michael DiNicola. I stand and I say it tongue-in-cheekly, but there's obviously truth to it, where he says, what that guy eats doesn't make me shit.
Right. It's something like that.
Right.
It's a healthy way to be. And so a lot of the, like, duress, as you put it, or anxieties I was feeling, it all came from a financial worries and lack of financial securities.
Sure.
And like, I could, there was, like, I was a workhorse. Like, I know I couldn't work harder. And sure, I had room to grow artistically, and I always will, but I was growing. It wasn't like I was stagnant. And I was doing everything I thought that was right. I mean, I was at one point working 2 full-time jobs, and I just wasn't getting anywhere with anything. And it was listening to a few books in the beginning that started to get my mind shifting in thought. And it took several books and several, I started practicing meditation, which was a big part of it. But just little things, like changing becoming aware of my inner talk, becoming aware of my thought patterns, my default way of looking at things.
Yeah.
And saying things to myself, like, for example, if something made me angry,
yeah,
I would just say, wait a minute, what can you do about it? What, understanding that getting angry isn't going to make it any better.
sure.
It's only going to make it worse for you.
Sure.
And then just looking at it as like, well, what can I do to make this better? And then it was, what are the opportunities that this problem is presenting me?
Sure.
And when I started looking for the opportunities, I started seeing like something I perceived as bad would happen, but it was actually an opportunity for me to do something, and something better would happen.
Sure.
So it was a lot of that, and just having faith, like just being like, stop worrying about money and just trust that what you're doing will work, and have a healthy mental attitude towards it, and learning about the law of attraction to help as well in that scenario. So while I'm not like any more financially stable, I am doing a lot to build a stability, but I'm not living in that fear zone. That was a big one for me. Realizing how much fear owned me.
Yeah.
I mean, I lived in a state of fear, and just realizing like, well, what did that gain you? What did that do for you? Did it make anything better? Did it make you work harder?
Right.
Did it make more opportunities come at you?
Right.
No, it didn't. And in fact, it made my work suffer. And it also, I'm sure, made people not want to be around me to some extent.
I certainly didn't want to be around you, to be perfectly honest.
Well, but that's my nature.
Right.
So even though I'm cooler and calmer now, you still don't want to be around me.
No, nothing has changed. I'm just saying back then, at least there was a reason. Now I can't think of a reason. I just don't like being around.
Right. I'm just not a likable person.
Now you're too chill. Now we have zero relatability at this point.
So now,
you sort of recalibrated, right?
Yeah,
you saw that, first of all, and I think that's pretty profound, to come to terms with the idea that you were operating under the parameters of fear all the time. Fear of failure, fear of like lack of financial success.
Fear of failure.
And the moment you sort of said, hey, listen, I'm going to be proactive about the things that I can do something about.
Yeah.
But I'm going to deprioritize all the things, because you can never really tuck it away, right? The best that you can do is just be like, I know that exists, at least for me, right? I know that exists, but it needs to be over there because I can't do anything about it.
Right. I mean, I'll feel that bubble up, but I can very quickly diffuse it, or like you said, put it aside.
Yeah.
You're not serving me. I don't need you.
Right.
And I think it took me hitting like a sort of bottom to wake up to everything.
Is that right?
I think it was when I was interviewing to go back to SCAD.
Oh, wow.
Is when I was like, oh, fuck, what am I doing? I just saw my life like heading off the rails in a direction where I was like...
Now that was pure utility, right? Because you were going there like, I need to have a level of financial stability, and this allows for that. This is an opportunity and an avenue for that. But something inside of you, there was a tripwire that made you go like, whoa, this doesn't feel good. This isn't right.
Right. It was when I went down, like I interviewed through Skype. This is before COVID.
Sure.
And I remember like they were like specifically telling me to wear a suit, and I was like, what the fuck? And
really?
I was like, yeah, for a Skype. Yeah, dude. So after that interview, they said some things to me that really ate at me. Like they told me my social media and everything Inkpulp would be like under their they'd have control over telling me what I can and can't post.
Okay.
And I was like, well, I'm not giving you my brand. That's just not going to happen.
Right.
But I went down to the school to do a lecture.
Yeah.
And I saw everything, and everything had changed since when I left. Like it was bad when I left.
Campus. I love that campus. That
the
place
campus
is cool.
Gorgeous.
Yeah.
But it was the people. I ran into an old colleague of mine in the bathroom, and he looked at me in shock, like, Shawn, what are you doing? It's like, you got out. Why are you here? Like, And I saw fear in him. I was like, oh boy. But it was also learning everything had changed and what my role would be. And they would essentially be dictating everything I did in the classroom and all of these rules in place. It was like basically they had turned it into McDonald's. Where you had no room as an individual to be an individual, and they just wanted you to be replaceable. And I was like, I'm not going to have time for my art. And I just was like, I saw it. I would just be, I'd be like people I know, they're just really unhappy.
Right. They hold on to it for the very specific utility of having some financial stability, but you could tell, well, at least for you, you can speak towards that, which is that wasn't really the dream. That was just, like you said, the level of desperation that you had arrived in. Right.
And I was listening to a book at the time. I think this is the second one I listened to.
Yeah.
And I remember saying to myself, Shawn, you've got these abilities that are strong enough to do something with. Where can you put them to use? And I started making a list of things.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. I made a list of things I can do and then put them into action as goals. Like, what can I do short term to make some money? I said, I can sell some drawings right away. So I very quickly got busy doing like a set of Avengers portraits and a set of like Batman Adventures, like watercolors. Yeah. And I remember selling those really fast.
Right.
And I was like, okay, all right. And one of the first things I put on there was create educational videos for comic book artists. And that's where Inkpulp instruction came from. Yeah. As I was interviewing with Scat, I was like, wait a minute, why am I giving you all of my knowledge for this low salary?
Right.
And I was like, all right. So I put myself to work and I just got focused and I stopped paying attention to the industry. I stopped paying attention to who was on what book, who got what job that I didn't get, and all that nonsense.
Yeah. Isn't that liberating sometimes to just be like,
oh, it was extremely liberating.
That was an old version of me. That was a past version. And as it is now, maybe it sucks, maybe it doesn't, but for sure it's not for me.
And it was hard. I mean, I got busy and I got focused and I worked my ass off. And it took a lot of work. I mean, I had days of darkness and I had days of light, and over repetition and staying focused and keeping going. The days of light started to outweigh the days of darkness, and now I don't really get days of darkness. I have moments of doubt, but I just say, like you said, I don't have time for you. Yeah. And I stopped. Also, one thing is, and this is something I'm still really working on, is everything was about money.
Yeah.
Everything. And I was like, I've really lost the joy in creating. I've lost the joy in living, because it was just like, if I don't have money, I can't be happy.
Right.
And it wasn't even like I wanted riches. I just wanted stability and comfort.
Yeah.
But I realized more recently, my lesson was to find comfort and happiness without that.
Right.
And then that will come.
Absolutely. And I'll say this, I think it runs in parallel to what you're talking about. I think success is, you have to form the habit for success.
Right.
Right. And far be it for me to define what success is for you or for anybody. But I think one of the things that make people, especially in our field, in the more creative field, right? I think if you deprioritize the money, strangely enough, it comes faster.
Yeah, I think you're right about that.
Like, I think it's a matter of just focusing on the thing that really makes you want to get up and do that thing, right? You got to get up, do that thing, and go like, okay, I'm really satisfied with my effort today. Right. You could put your head on your pillow, fall asleep at night, knowing full well that you sort of put as much effort as you could that day. Sometimes that doesn't have to be 100%, but whatever it is that you had remaining that day, for whatever it is that you're drawing, whatever it is that you're working on. And then somehow, like, things open up to you.
Yeah. And that's what I had trouble grasping years ago.
Because it's faith-based, right? Because like you were saying, you were so logically driven, logically motivated. The thing that fed your engine was the gasoline that is logic. That to say, okay, well, for next I'm going to try to feed this engine with like faith, and you're like, it's so hard to come up with to immediately switch to that,
Yeah, it was not immediate.
Yeah,
but it took work. It just like it took me time. Like it was a period of a watchful note taking on me and my thoughts and recognizing patterns.
Yeah, did you keep a journal or something when you say note taking?
No, I did keep a journal, but I mean just mentally like
taking notes.
Yeah, like, now you're depressed. Why? How did you get here? And then starting to see like something happening and be like, oh, that's going to depress you. That.
Right.
And now you have a choice. And realizing happiness was a choice was big.
Wow. That's pretty big.
Yeah. And it's like you can tell someone who isn't happy, it's a choice. As much as you want, they're not going to understand it
for sure
until they're ready to accept it.
For sure, I'll tell you a story that I had a conversation again. My buddy, our common friend, Michael DiNicola, he was saying it's hard for him to. He was asking me what social media platforms I frequent more regularly now, and I said I still do Instagram, but I do a whole lot of Twitter now, right? Mm-hmm. And he said, oh, I just can't step into Twitter, because it's such a cesspool. And he was explaining the A, B's, and C's of why it's such a like an awful experience for him. And I said, I think everything that you're saying is true, but let me introduce this idea to you. Everything that happens on Twitter, you bring onto yourself, short of a few handful of instances, right? Yeah. You can curate the experience that you have on Twitter, And so, I gave him the example that at one point in my Twittering, I don't do it like I time box my time on there, right? Mm-hmm. But at one point in my Twittering, especially when the previous administration was on its way out, just people were going freaking bonkers on there, and I thought like, and they were, again, they were the nature of that place. It does not thrive without some level of conflict. Right. Mm-hmm. So all they were doing was, retweeting their echo chambers. Mm-hmm. And it just got to be overwhelming to the point where I just started unfollowing everybody because I didn't want that experience anymure. So this goes to your point of like, you choose for yourself the emotional state. And it's rare. There's a few, I think a few notable instances by which sometimes that emotional space that you're occupying isn't automatically yours, but if you're aware of it, it's easier to sort of like get yourself back to center, But you choose for yourself the kind of emotional space that you want to be in. Absolutely. More often than not. Some people go like, oh, I open Twitter and I just get so anxious. And I go, you chose that for yourself, not just because you open Twitter, which is a mechanism in and of itself. Yeah, okay, I understand, because again, the place is built on conflict, right? Right. But also because you opened it and you chose those people to follow. Exactly. And by proxy, you chose to follow the people that they're following because they're gonna, again, Twitter loves echo chambers, right? People love echo chambers. They love to be proven correct about they love to be validated about whatever their opinion is because they're not strong, emotionally confident enough psychologically.
And these social media applications are very adept to curating your experience on it based on what you're liking, what you're responding to, and if that's what you're very involved with, it's going to just dump all that to you. That was another big thing was I hated social media for a lot of those reasons. It was just a place I'd open up and see everyone's successes and my failures, and then I would get really engaged with what's that?
I said it's built that way to show off everyone's successes and give you a feeling of like, look how amazing somebody else's life is. Right, exactly. And I would get very engaged with, maybe some social ideas, some political ideas, and just like, get into all that. And when I hit that bottom, I was like, wait a minute. Here you have these tools that are going to allow you, now that you're thinking more like a business person and an entrepreneur for your art. Yes. You've got these wonderful and amazing tools
to spread your business with.
Sure.
Learn how to use them.
That sounds gross, spreading your business, but okay, go ahead.
But I was like, if I learn how to use these, I stop paying attention to how many followers other people have.
Yeah.
Just worry about you and what you're doing on there, and learn about these different platforms and how to use them. And I'm still like, every day is a learning experience on social media for me that I take and put into the next day. So, I got on TikTok. I did all kinds of stuff. And I'm on Twitter. Twitter, I don't like, everyone complains about it. I don't have a problem with Twitter. I see people very engaged in these debates and these retweets. And I just ignore that. I'm like, why are you wasting your energy? That was the big thing for me, was I realized where my energies were being placed. And you have a finite amount of energy.
Yeah, for sure. At any given day,
right. So to put your energies into these negative political tweets or complaining about something, or I was like, that is something I am done with, and I am out. Sure. And I see people doing it, and I just scroll right by it. I'm like, not interested.
I often, when I run into that, these days, because I've come to realize that there is a social component to social media, surprise, surprise, that when you unfollow somebody, they really take it personally.
Right.
And I'm like, this is crazy. You and I have known each other for decades. Why don't, that should not mean anything to you. We're friends independent of this thing, but to some people, it's a big deal. So more than I've learned to unfollow, I've actually learned to mute a lot.
I muted a lot too.
I'll continue to follow you, but geez Louise, heaven forbid you get pissed off at me. This is not my intent. It's just that you're putting, if we're talking about the curation of my experience while I'm on this platform, you're putting a lot of things in my timeline that you think are quite clever, that you think really help stand up your lack of self-confidence in your own opinion. Twitter is like, to your point, is a great tool if you are now an active broadcaster rather than an passive receiver.
Exactly. Twitter's a platform I still don't feel like I use it well. I don't get a lot of engagement on it, and I just haven't cracked it. But part of that is I've put my energies deep into Instagram and now TikTok.
Sure. Both of those are viable. I mean, it could be argued, some people would, that Instagram is slowly starting to fade because the algorithm effectively broke that platform. And then, Twitter has become such a poop show that people are avoiding it. Right?
But TikTok, I'm doing really well at.
Good.
I mean, it took me a while, and my daughter taught me some things, and I started learning about it. And I was like, okay, this is a great little platform, and I'm ready for the next one to pop up. I mean,
of course,
it's great. And I remember a big shift in me. I remember my daughter was complaining about the algorithm, silencing her on something and calling them calling them names who own the platform. Like, hold on a second here. What we all really have to realize is Instagram is this person's business.
Right.
It's not mine.
Right.
I have no ownership to it.
For sure.
They allow me this platform.
For sure.
And they're the controllers of it, and I have to accept that.
Yeah, no,
now, if I learn how to use it in a way that they like, it's going to help me.
Yeah, no, I agree.
To complain about them is silly, because that's their business. Yeah, and I wouldn't want anyone coming into Inkpulp instruction telling me how I should make my video.
I remember somebody getting super upset because the algorithm changed for Instagram. They're just bitching and moaning. And I said, so basically you're complaining about a free free service.
Exactly.
Right. And because now it's disadvantageous as opposed to advantageous as it was previously, and it's impacting your business. And by the way, I have complete sympathy for that, right? I would hate for somebody to turn around as a service to be like, well, I used to make my living off of this and now it's not working. It's similar to Facebook, right?
Right. But
this doesn't work anymore. Yeah, this doesn't work anymore. And so damn Instagram, damn Facebook. I'm all like, you're on here at their behest. right? There's this building that has millions of rooms, and they say you can come and squat here anytime that you want.
Right.
And now that they say, hey, we're going to paint the building pink, you're like, no way, man, this is my building.
Right.
And people couldn't understand it, that it didn't belong to them. You are at the behest of these people.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah. And so,
it's
and
like
the other thing that I was
you see
the other thing that I was willing to highlight was that if your business is contingent upon this thing that you know could and at any moment could pivot and change so that it's less viable for you, then that's not much of a business at all. Right. You didn't build that into your plan of like being agile and being able to change and switch directions, you know?
Right. It's a great platform to market and promote yourself with.
Yes.
But if your whole business is on one platform or a couple of those platforms, you're in a very dangerous position.
I agree. Any business would be, but you know,
It's just, but you know, you can use it and have like a lot of success, and you can
I agree.
really blow yourself up. So if you just play the game, you can get somewhere with it. But it's like I love the Instagram models. You know, Instagram's very clear about what they don't want and what they don't allow in terms of showing skin.
Right.
And so they do really well for a while because they're showing a little bit of skin, and that's the thirst trap, as they call it. And it gets a lot of attention. They build these businesses. They have these OnlyFans page, and they start doing really well. And then all of a sudden, their Instagram gets shut down, and they go on a tirade about how shitty Instagram is.
Right.
And it's like, no, they've been very clear about this. You were lucky for a little bit of time, and now it caught up with you.
Right. So, all right. So let's talk about how you've taken that sort of personal growth, that emotional space that you're like, hey, I'm putting into practice what I had sort of theorized and conceptualized, right? I came up with a thesis. I'm putting into practice. I've gotten better at it. Not to say that you're 100% adept at doing it. How has that impacted your work overall? Your outlook, your sort of, even just the actual utility of drawing, you know?
My artwork, I found joy in it again. That was
you found joy.
Yeah. And that's when I started painting. And that's when I started creating the way I wanted to. And started learning again and growing again.
You hadn't done that in a while, learning and growing.
I had been under such deadline duress and financial strain that I was just getting shit done.
Right.
Sure, there's an element of growth to just the act of doing it.
Sure.
But I hadn't spent time.
But it wasn't purposeful, right? It wasn't like top of mind, right? You weren't like
I realized, you could probably look at the last 2 years of my work and see a dip in the quality for sure. Because one thing was the scripts were just getting worse and worse and worse, and I wasn't enjoying that part of it. But I was just trying to get it done to get a paycheck over and over and over and over.
Right.
And I was no longer like actively seeking growth. I just didn't have the time, the energy, the space for that.
Right.
And so therefore the act of drawing a comic was just a job.
Yeah.
At that point.
Yeah.
So getting back
not uncommon.
So getting that away from me allowed me to find joy again and slow down. You know, like I stopped worrying about how long it takes me to do something. Like I spent years worrying about it takes me too long, it takes me too long, it takes me too long.
Where did that come from? Was that just from all of that?
Yeah, I mean, also I knew like I wasn't a monthly artist.
Yeah. And
so therefore making a living was even harder.
Right.
And I wasn't getting anywhere. So it's just like I need to get faster so I can get more jobs. More jobs means more money. More jobs means higher profile gigs. Blah, 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 blah. I played that game as I thought it was supposed to be played. I played it for a few years longer than I probably should have, but that's where it ended me. So getting away from all that was great. Like, it's funny, Klaus and I have had these conversations at almost every con lately where it's like I've gotten rid of deadlines, and he's like, what is that like? I'm like, it's feels great. I was like, you know, it's hard because you don't know where your money's coming from,
right?
But it's liberating to not live like that anymore, to live under such stress. And then I got rid of it. I was like, wow, what kind of toll did I take on myself? I was constantly like worried. I was in a state of constant like worry. What did I get done today? Was it enough? It was never enough. I can't remember a single day where I went to bed like I fucking got ahead. I kicked ass. I can't. I don't think maybe once or twice. Maybe
right. But more often than not, what was the thought? It was like, oh man, I didn't do enough today. I could have done more. I could have.
Right. So now I needed to get it. I needed another hour today. And so that means tomorrow I'm behind. And then it was like it compounds.
Yeah, sure.
So then it's like I see the like my scheduled deadline growing towards their deadline.
Right.
And it was like a game I played myself over and over. It was like, Shawn, why are you doing this to yourself? Like, what are you like? It's crazy. Yeah. So that's how it's changed my artwork, and it's let me think about what I get back to why I do this. What do I want from this? I mean, I got into comics wanting to create my own stuff, and I thought the route because what my example was Frank Miller and Mike Mignola.
Sure,
you know, go become a sensation at these publishing houses, and then you can break off and do your thing. It was a different time back then. We didn't have the internet. But so I was in that mindset. I have to break through at one of these publishers and become a sensation to some extent in order to get where I want to go. And it was like when I hit that bottom, I was like, no, you just need to figure out how to support yourself in bring in enough passive income that will allow you the financial stability and time to just do what you want to do and take the money away from that.
Yeah, for sure.
Don't even so there was a lot of false starts of me like I'm gonna get an image book going. And just but I hadn't figured out how to bring in the money that would allow that to happen.
Right.
So, you know, that's not that I even want to go to Image anymore. I just want to publish my own shit like you are. Like I just want to crowdfund it and reach my audience and do it that way. But so everything I'm doing now is trying to build Inkpulp Instruction to the point where it supports me. While I'm doing that, I'm trying to survive financially because it's not supporting me and make plans to get my book going. So it's like I'm in this crazy, like I have this insanely busy schedule. I don't have a lot financially to show for it, but I'm also at peace now. Like, I'm okay. Like I go to bed at night, like today, like for example, I had a lot of hiccups today, but when I go to bed tonight, I'll be like, you did a good job today. Like I opened up Photoshop, like I'm making a new print. So, I have this ink drawing I did. I opened up Photoshop. I started to do my flats, my color separations. Photoshop just updated. I had forgot, and I don't know why Adobe does this. Every time Photoshop updates, it defaults the lasso tool to alias.
Holy cow! Okay.
So I picked up on this before because after I do my flats and I grab a color, I noticed the edges are blurry.
Yeah.
I'm like, fuck, I got to go redo my flats. So about halfway through my flats today, I was like, wait a minute, it updated, and I zoom in. I'm like, fuck. So I was like, that's okay. I just deleted all the work, put one color down, saved it. I was like, now I'm going to move on to this commission I got to work on. I didn't get as much done on anything as I wanted to, but I got a lot done.
Yeah,
and that's all that matters. I mean, I'm fine. And I'm, you know, it's like I had these podcasts, like nothing is causing me stress where I'd be freaking out, like anxiety. I'd be riddled with anxiety.
You'd be different. It'd be different 4 years ago, 3 years ago.
Yeah, completely. Because that's the state of mind I lived in. But now it's like, oh, I'll go to bed fine. I'll be happy. And I'll get up ready to get at it tomorrow. And like old me would have been like, I really need to put more time into this commission tomorrow and get that really moving more. Yeah. But I did a mural, and there's a couple little touch-ups I'm going in the morning to do, and old me would have been like, I got to get there, get that done, get the studio. And now I'm like, no. I'm going to go. I'm going to have some fun doing these touch-ups because, I don't know, just holding a spray can and spraying paint on a wall feels good. Yeah. And the guy who owns the restaurant, I've become friendly with, and I want to chat it up with him. And I've also noticed that slowing down and connecting with people instead of being like, I got to get from here to here to here to here.
Yeah.
Makes you feel better.
Yeah.
Makes opportunities happen.
Sure.
And it's what life is. Like that's what that, like, finding joy in the moment. And that's another, I mean, I'd heard that, and through years of yoga, it was always about get into the now, get into the now. And I never really could get there. And I think now I'm starting to have moments where I can do that. And that's what the con was like for me. I was just in the moment. The past few cons, I'm not like, all right, who's going to come up and buy something? Who's going to buy something? I'm not doing commission.
Were you really in that space? Yeah.
Yeah, you know that. That's all I talked about at cons was like, I didn't make enough money. Like I needed to make it. But now I'm just like, you know, someone comes up, let's chat and let me get to know what your interests are. And like, I'm talking to someone, and you know, if it seems like they're interested in if they draw or are artists, then I'll just ask them, do you draw? And yeah. And then, oh, well, let me tell you about this. And here's Inkpulp instruction. And if not, you know, just, you know, let's shoot the shit.
Yeah. That's great, man. It sounds like you're at the very least well into the journey of like finding that personal center, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's pretty freaking amazing.
I'm generally happy. And I was afraid to say that.
What, that you were happy?
Yeah, like if someone would ask, how are you? I would just be like, I'm okay. Like that was just it. Like I wouldn't think about the question. I would just say, I'm okay. Like I wouldn't allow myself, I wasn't allowed to say, I'm good. I'm great. I'm happy.
Well, why? Wait a minute. What was when you say you weren't allowed to say? What is that? Some kind of self-inflicted thing?
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't allow myself.
You wouldn't allow yourself
to say it. Like I don't know why. I mean, that's something I need to explore more of. But like now, like Steph texted me earlier, "How's your day?" And I was like, "Great." Like nothing amazing happened, but I'm in my space. I'm working on a few projects. I'm going to podcast with Eric tonight. I was on Ryan Stegman's podcast earlier, and look, this is a cool life I've got. This is a great day.
Yeah, it certainly could be a whole lot worse. You know, it certainly could be a lot
worse. Yeah, I mean, I've got it pretty damn good.
Yeah,
and that is new to have that, to be able to say that and believe that.
That's awesome. I was going to say, I was really super apprehensive and not really looking forward to hanging out with you the next show that we do. But
because
now
of my negativity,
you're kind of turning me around. You're kind of turning me around.
All right, Eric might want to hang out with me next.
When are we? We're meeting. We're going to be in SuperCon.
MegaCon.
Right. We're going to be in MegaCon in Florida in a month.
Yes. Yeah.
A little less than, a little more than.
Yeah, just actually exactly. It's like the 17th is the first day or something like that.
There you go. I'm really looking forward to that, Shawn.
Me
Not
too.
necessarily for the con, but obviously for the company.
Yeah, I mean, that's
just be like whatever, you know. And the funny thing is, that's still my attitude. That had been I'd been pretty consistent about conventions. Yeah, like I would just get to the show, I would draw, get bored. And then just like kind of walk around, you know, because it's like, I don't know. I feel like part of going to a convention is not exclusively just sitting behind the table. That's obviously, you know, the business component, or, you know, and in by proxy, the financial component of going there. You want to make sure that at the very least, you know, there's an opportunity to make money there. And if you could, why not? Right. But for me, drawing that thing for somebody who was cool enough to want me to draw it for them was so much more profound for me, right? And I took a more kickback approach to it, not because I didn't care about the drawing, because I knew if I had to make something pretty or over render something, it just wouldn't be into it. So I drew the thing that I felt like drawing for that person. I hope they could see that the quality was in there. But more importantly, when I would go to shows, I didn't want to make it exclusively about sitting behind a table. I wanted to go to a show and be like, hey, this is cool. That's cool over there. I want to see that.
Right.
You know, and yeah, sure, eventually it starts to sort of lump in together. I don't know. I can't remember the last time I saw a t-shirt tower, you know, like.
Right.
But it's like, at the very least, I can say I had the experience of being able to walk around in the show and see things that I you know, far be it, my intent is not necessarily to go see the friends that we've come to know over the years. It's nice to catch up, but I like being surprised by those new artists in Artist Alley.
Right.
Like, I like seeing them, and I'm all like, oh, you're early into your Artist Alley career. And I'm so freaking excited for you, because I really hope this takes off the way you intended to.
Yeah.
And so seeing those people's work, seeing them be so enthusiastic about it, to your point earlier about like, you found your love for drawing comic books again. Those little instances give me an appreciation of what it means to be in our, I don't say this lightly, in our privileged position as sort of long in the tooth guys who have been working in the industry for a while. Yeah. And you run into these guys who maybe this is their third show, maybe it's their second, right? Yeah. Maybe less, maybe more. Yeah. But they're early in their convention career, and it's all they could do to hope that somebody looks in their general direction to pick up a book or, have that conversation and sell their stuff to you. I love being that guy. I love being that guy to be able to say hello. Absolutely. I mean, honestly, it's a big part of Inkpulp instruction is I do want to literally help people like speed up that time period for them of like wanting to get in, to getting in, to staying in. Like if I can offer any teachings or, I mean, it's giving back. No, actually, your name came up in a most recent conversation with our good friend Guillermo, right? Oh, yeah? Yeah, and we were talking about, I can't remember how your name came up, but it did come up. And Guillermo suggested something to me, because I was talking about, as an artist, you spend so much time, because of the nature of our conversation, I was saying, like, you spend so much time getting good at your craft, getting so, like, honed in and polishing all those little sharp edges so you become relevant, memorable, hireable, whatever it is. But by the time you get to the other side of that, early in, like, you'll have multiple stages in your learning, right? In your sort of journey through becoming a better craftsman, right? Some are highly marketable, some are not, right? But certainly you go through these stages. But at that first stage where you finally are marketable in the space that you want to be marketable in, right? Nobody teaches you the business part. It doesn't, it's so all consuming getting good at your craft that by the time you get to the other end, somebody goes like, well, do you think this is a fair price for what we're paying you? Right. Right. And you just kind of go, I guess I've never really thought about what's fair, what's whatever. I remember meeting, do you remember Sarah Richard, a really, really great artist? What's the name? Sarah Richards. Sounds familiar. We've met her a handful of times. Great gal. But I remember meeting her for the very first time, I think at a Chicago Comic-Con, in which I had seen her work online. So I went to go visit her at her table, right? And so I went over there, and some guy was haggling with her, right? And Sarah was sort of just like, new to the scene, so it may have been the second, fourth time. She's a old, tabling is old hat for her at this point, but let's say less than a half a dozen times. This was maybe her third time doing it. I can't remember how she tells that story, but she told me this. She was like, I was haggling with a guy, or a guy was haggling with me, and I kept trying to, like, well, maybe this, and I think finally she folded and she said, okay, then this rock bottom price or whatever it was. Or at the very least, the guy stepped away and said, like, well, let me think about it, And after looking through her stuff, I don't know what compelled me to do it, because it can come off sort of like opinionated and arrogant. But I told her, you know what that guy was saying to you? Don't lower yourself to that price. Right. Understand that that's what you feel comfortable parting with that piece of art. Right. And don't do it. It's not going to end up paying off for you later. As a matter of fact, you do it enough times, it starts to really degrade your confidence and self-worth, Yeah, and I did that. She told me about that later on. What a profound thing that was for me to say that to her. No, mind you, she didn't know me from Adam, Right. But I said, don't do that, right? So in spirit, that's the kind of, business acumen that they don't often teach you as you're getting better at your craft. Your lessons often are in the orbit of, like, here's how you do lighting, here's how you do compositions, here's how you do rendering. But Guillermo suggested to me, that may be a great component, might be a great module for, for your instruction.
You mean to do a video on the business of stuff?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, it's in my list of like topics I want to cover. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's
one of the most important ones, especially now, because now more than ever you need that business acumen.
Absolutely. At the very least, have a jumping off point. It might be, sort of rudimentary, right? It might not necessarily be the most advanced concept, but at the very least is a jumping off point, because a lot of kids, they don't see that. You go to school for art and, you pay a ton of money to get art instructions from different institutions, but it's rarely ever part of the curriculum going like, you go through like how to prepare a portfolio, but you never like, how do you sell yourself? How do you make sure that you're getting the better end of the deal, or at the very least a fair shake when you walk into a room? How do you quantify, self-worth so that you're not overly doing, you're not overly underselling yourself, right?
Right. And I mean, I do get a lot of DMs through instruction asking, business questions like that. So it's definitely one I want to film. I am trying to figure out who to film that with, because while I've learned a lot in the past few years, I still have a lot to learn. That's definitely my weak area is
for sure
business stuff and marketing.
Consider that it might not be one person. It might be like a
no. That's what I'm thinking. It'll be several, like just the business of comics with this artist, the business of comics with this artist,
for sure.
So on and so forth. So that's definitely on my list. Definitely.
I hope it comes to pass. If there's anything I can do to help you out on that, I'd be happy to.
I will. In fact, we should probably do one of those with you. This is the Inkpulp podcast. This is the Inkpulp podcast. Comics. Hip hop, life.